Hey guys, it's Quinn, and today we're taking a look at Timothy Dalton's first, and in my opinion, best Bond film, The Living Daylights. After the begrudgingly long Roger Moore era finally came to close in 1985 with the disappointing A View to a Kill, the Bond series wanted to add reality, grit, and youth back to a series that had seriously been depleted of all three since the Connery era. I'm a huge fan of Moore, and Moore was still pretty popular, but as with every new Bond actor, the series needed to reinvent itself in order to stay relevant. Hence The Living Daylights, one of the darker, more intense, and absolutely underrated Cold War films of its time, was created. But how does it fit into the Bond universe? Well, let's find out as we explore 1987's The Living Daylights. We open in Gibraltar, where various 00s are tasked with infiltrating a radar complex. The backstory of this doesn't really matter, but rather the action that goes down in one of the better pre-title sequences in the series. One by one, each 00 is either captured or killed by a mysterious man. One is thrown off a cliff, where we are introduced to our new Bond and probably the most badass entrance since or after Connery's. I really like how they immediately throw Bond into the action here, and how they immediately show that he's a serious agent who isn't some pussy. Unlike pretty much any Moore film, it's refreshing to see Bond actually do his job. Bond locates one of the agents who died with the note smeared on him, which we later find out means death to spies. Bond gives chase to the killer, and after a pretty exciting chase through the hillsides and city, Bond kills the guy and conveniently lands on a yacht.
It's all so boring here, Margot. There's nothing but playboys and tennis pros. If only I could find a real man.
Then what the fuck would make your life not boring? You just witnessed a super spy fly off a mountain onto your yacht. Anyways, Bond casually gets himself in with another model after Super Slick Bond, James Bond, before we head into the title sequence. It's here I want to touch on the music just a little bit. Although the title sequence itself kinda sucks, I absolutely love the theme song and especially the score in this film. Although it does kind of feel like A View to a Kill's little brother in both regards, it's still top notch and I think definitely adds to the overall intensity of the film, even if it does date the film just ever so slightly. Alright, get ready for a mouthful here. After the title sequence, we find ourselves in communist Czechoslovakia, where Bond and perhaps the most annoying male ally ever in the form of Saunders spy on a man named Koskov, whose job they have is to help him defect to the West. Bond also finds interest in a lady with a cello, who turns out to be the Bond girl of this film. I'll save my rant on her for later, but she is just abysmal, even though she has such potential in this film. Anyways, Bond is assigned to take out a sniper who is assigned to kill Koskov if he attempts to defect, which, shocker, the sniper turns out to be the cellist. Bond defends Koskov as he escapes through a bathroom by shooting the girl's gun, which, mind you, is to purposely miss her. Bond and Koskov ditch Saunders, which, thank God, was the right move, because why would you expect to get through a shut-down border with a guy in the trunk? It makes no sense. They escape through a pipe and get General Koskov to the wedge eventually, though. This entire bit of the film is a great bit of Cold War espionage, which is, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the film. Especially for first-time viewers, this part really holds the tension well, has a few really funny quips by Bond.
Our engineers have spent months perfecting this.
How many times have you done this before?
You're the first.
And really teeters the line between campy and serious well. I'm looking at the pipeline bit for this critique. Anyways, Koskov is flown out of Austria. Bond talks about how when he saw the cellist,
Whoever she was must have scared the living daylights out of her.
and this endeth the last real interesting bit of action in this film for the next half an hour. The new Bond and the new Moneypenny get to meet each other in what I think is a cute little moment between the two actors, even if she throws herself at him just a little bit. We also get some of the best gadgets in these scenes with the ghetto blaster and later on the couch. It's cool seeing good Q branch scenes like those in Octopussy and Goldeneye here. Cutting in between these Q branch scenes is an estate scene which is very heavy in details, in which I think unloads a lot of information on the audience a little bit too quickly. While the milkman is assassinated and replaced by the KGB agent, Koskov goes on a monologue explaining that the new leader of the KGB has created an assassination program where the KGB and Western intelligence agents will end up killing one another tit for tat. Koskov recommends that the KGB agent be assassinated to stop this from happening. He informs them that the leader will be in North Africa in 3 days. I hope you guys got all that. After a really awesome fight between the KGB agent and a waiter who is the don of fighting apparently, Koskov is captured by the agent and sent back to Moscow. One side note, I fucking love how the milk is explosives. Like, it's so stupid yet so cool at the same time, you gotta love it. This is what I think about the entire sequence. It's probably 6 minutes long, yet arguably the most important of the film. We are introduced to pretty much every big player in the film besides the other main villain, and we find out a lot about each of the characters. After watching this film many times, it's really funny watching how Koskov plays this bit. We later find out how he lied about everything and just wanted the KGB leader dead, and with that in mind, his actions are really funny. He pushes so hard throughout the scenes to make sure his enemies have indeed died, and you can see his acting skills by all of his actions. He pretends to be scared of the Soviet sniper even though he knows Bond will kill her, and he pretends to be seriously hurt by the blonde KGB guy even though he barely knocked him. The problem, though, is that these nuances are a little too slight to be noticed, even, in my opinion, on the second or third watching. It gives great replay value, I suppose, but not as many as I have had. Besides, for first-time viewers, it throws a little too much at them for what people should expect out of the series. This is a Bond film, not Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I love creativity in these films, but just, you don't need to make it a jigsaw puzzle. Anyways, Bond says he will go to the KGB leader, Pushkin, which ironically kind of sounds like Putin, but whatever. Why they didn't just make the character Gogol, I will have no fucking idea. It would have made this film so much better, but then again, the series never brings back characters twice, unless you're Bond and you only live twice, apparently. And just as a refresher, Gogol is the agent that Bond pretty much has to go against in almost every single Roger Moore film. He's a recurring character that really makes a great relationship with the Roger Moore character throughout many films. Anyways, after a great Q branch scene, Moneypenny announces that she has found the celloist, so Bond decides to meet up with her before going to Tangier, North Africa, which is where the KGB leader will be. Once he arrives in Czechoslovakia, Bond and some KGB boys follow Kara home. The KGB takes her, so he takes her cello that she left behind and discovers a gun inside of the case, a gun which contains blanks. This means that when she was supposed to kill Koskov, she was shooting at him with air, which means she was set up by someone because Koskov knew that Bond would shoot whatever agent was there to kill him. In other words, Koskov must have set her up, knowing she was the other sniper assigned to kill him. Meanwhile, the KGB trashes the girl, named Kara again, home, and waited outside to see where she would go next. In doing this, she becomes very spooked, so Bond has to explain who he is. Explains, in quotations, right? He pretends he is a friend of Koskov, so she follows him to the border of Austria. What follows is a brilliant car chase to the border, full of explosions, bullets, and lasers, and probably one of the dumbest, cringiest gadgets I think this film has ever produced. It's kind of funny, I'll admit, but still, Jesus Christ. It all starts, though, with her insisting that she needs her fucking cello before they can leave.
Come on, get up.
Why didn't you learn the violin?
As a violinist myself, the amount of hatred I have for her in this moment cannot be expressed. I don't care that the cello is invaluable. I burn my violin to the ground rather than get busted by the KGB. If you want the full rant on her, be patient. It'll happen. This is only the beginning. I've discussed this chase before in my top 10 car chases videos, but needless to say, it's really cool and reminds me a lot of the Goldfinger chase with the amount of gadgets involved. In particular, the sequence on the lake I think is just brilliant. Anyways, they get to Austria with the help of her cello. At this point, you may be saying, well, God, Quinn, maybe you shouldn't bag on her for the cello then. And to that I say, they wouldn't have been in this situation if they enjoyed the 10-minute head start they'd burned getting in the first place. Oh, I need to breathe. We cut to Tangier, North Africa, where we see General Pushkin meeting up with the deranged pseudo-general Brad Whitaker, the other main villain of the film. We see that he has an insane passion for war, in particular brutal generals such as Hitler and Genghis Khan. This is because he is an arms dealer and apparently the most sleazy there is. Apparently him and Koskov are partners, and Pushkin informs him that the deal the two had for $15 million with the Russians is off. This explains why Koskov wants Pushkin dead. If Pushkin is dead, then the deal can go through and the two can earn millions. Is this the most convoluted plot you've ever heard for a Bond film? Well, I'll tell you this. I think it's very clever in a lot of ways. It reminds me of what occurred on Octopussy with the jewelry robbery, only this isn't campy. I think it teeters on the edge of overcomplicated, which makes it slightly hard to follow, but it is at least interesting nonetheless. Meanwhile, Bond and Kara tour Austria, which let's just skip over because it really doesn't matter. This is probably the worst part of the film, in my opinion, because it involves both Kara and Saunders, who I find to be incredibly boring characters. Saunders because he's weak and naggy, Kara because she's just the worst. Anyways, my prayers are answered, and Saunders is killed as a false flag operation to show that Pushkin wants to kill all Western agents. After he is killed, though, Bond shows a genuine moment of actually getting pissed, which was badass, if a little out of character, before the best little scene in the film.
Where are you going? Here!
Oh man, I fucking love it. Pretty much what we learn, though, is that Kara's cello is rare and was purchased at an auction by Brad Whitaker, who also happens to live in Tangier, as we saw earlier. This means that Bond has figured out that Whitaker and Koskov have to know each other and that he must be getting set up, but he doesn't know how. So Bond is now pissed and they ship off to Tangier the next day to figure out some shit. I love how at this point Bond has become really dark. It's really cool because I think it is believable that someone in his position would be pissed, so I like that the director is letting Dalton play a more realistic character than a glamorized cold as a rock figure at this point. The next evening in Tangier, Bond confronts Pushkin in a scene which, for how powerful it is, would have been much better with Gogol. It really is an incredibly missed opportunity, especially for longtime Bond fans. Pushkin says that Smirna was an operation done under the Stalin era, and that he had tried to arrest Koskov 2 weeks ago for misusing state funds, aka the arms deal with Whitaker. In a really wonderful little scene, Bond says that he can never figure out what Koskov is truly up to unless Pushkin is dead, so Pushkin says that,
But as long as you're alive, we'll never know what he's up to. Then I must die.
Later at a press conference, Bond assassinates Pushkin right before the blonde KGB agent does. He was previously given the orders to kill Pushkin if Bond doesn't. What follows is a really great few shots and awesome chase sequence through the rooftops of the city. Bond escapes, and it turns out that they faked Pushkin's assassination so that Koskov would believe he is dead, and so Koskov would actually carry out his operation. Bond is kidnapped by two extremely wooden female actors who must have done, a little extra to get the part, if you know what I mean, when they bring him to an equally awful Felix Leiter, who we never see again, thank God. That night, Bond goes to hang out with Kara, who drugs him so he can be captured by Koskov and his men. As he collapses, Bond tells her that she was actually crossed by Koskov when he put blanks in her gun. She says that Bond is a KGB agent because Koskov said so. Anyways, Bond is captured and sent with a bunch of diamonds to Afghanistan. Koskov is going to send him to Soviet authorities there for the death of Pushkin, making Koskov a hero. It's crazy, but fuck it, I'm sold. Let's just keep going on with this rodeo. We also find out here that Kara believes Bond actually, and is now on his side, which ends up having very little bearing on the rest of the plot because she's useless, but just letting y'all know because she gets arrested with him. After a pretty badass fight sequence in the jail where Bond escapes in what feels like a very similar scene to the jail escape sequence in the GoldenEye video game, and actually the film for that matter, all with the help of an Afghan there as well, Bond and Kara pretend to be Soviets as they attempt to get out of the airbase. Bond, Kara, and the Afghan escape and meet up with the rest of the Afghans that are outside of the base, where Bond agrees to go with them in a mission to sell opioids to the Russians the following day. Kara gets salty for Bond doing his job because she's convinced they'll die, so they have one final night together before the two of them go to the sale the next day. At this point, there's around 25 to 30 minutes left in the film, and I think this is where it really starts to pick up, and I think elevates the overall ranking of this film. Let's examine it a little.